Born on the rugged island of Corsica, Napoleon Bonaparte emerged from humble beginnings, a boy molded by the fierce winds of ambition. His early years were marked by a relentless drive to transcend the limitations of his heritage. As he navigated the complexities of French society, the outsider began to forge a path that would lead him to the pinnacle of power, fueled by a genius that would both inspire and terrify. In the tumultuous aftermath of the French Revolution, Napoleon seized the moment. He transformed from a military officer into a master strategist, capturing the imagination of a nation hungry for stability. His ability to rally troops and inspire loyalty became legendary, as he orchestrated campaigns that would expand French territory and influence, all while crafting an identity that blended revolutionary ideals with imperial ambition. With the audacity of a visionary, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French in 1804, a bold declaration that defied the traditional structures of monarchy. In a grand ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, he took the crown from the Pope's hands, symbolizing his belief in self-made authority. This act of defiance not only solidified his power, but also marked the beginning of a new era, where ambition knew no bounds. Napoleon's reign was characterized by sweeping reforms that reshaped France. The Napoleonic Code established legal uniformity, promoting principles of equality and meritocracy. Yet, beneath the surface of progress, his relentless pursuit of dominance sowed the seeds of conflict across Europe. As he expanded his empire, the very genius that built his legacy began to unravel, leading to a series of wars that would test the limits of his ambition. His military campaigns, marked by brilliant tactics and audacious maneuvers, captivated the world. The Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 showcased his strategic brilliance as he outsmarted a numerically superior coalition. Yet as victories piled up, so too did the enemies he created. Each triumph further entrenched his belief in his own invincibility, a dangerous mindset that would ultimately contribute to his downfall. As the years passed, the weight of ambition began to take its toll. The disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812 marked a turning point, revealing the fragility of his empire. Harsh winters and fierce resistance decimated his forces, shattering the myth of Napoleon as an unstoppable force. The once great emperor found himself grappling with the consequences of his unchecked ambition, as the very empire he built began to crumble. In the end, Napoleon's legacy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of brilliance and hubris. His rise from a Corsican outsider to Emperor of the French serves as a poignant reminder of how genius, when untethered, can both create and destroy. As the echoes of his ambition reverberate through history, they challenge us to reflect on the dual nature of power and the fine line between greatness and ruin. Born in 1769 on the windswept island of Corsica, young Napoleon Bonaparte was thrust into a world of upheaval. The echoes of revolution reverberated through his childhood, shaping his ambitions and igniting a fierce desire for power. Surrounded by the fervor of change, he absorbed the lessons of conflict and resilience, laying the groundwork for his future as a military leader who would challenge the very fabric of Europe. Napoleon's education began at a military academy in Brienne-le-Château, where he faced the sting of rejection. His Corsican accent and humble origins set him apart, making him a target for ridicule among his peers. Yet, within the walls of that institution, he honed his intellect and strategic thinking, transforming the pain of isolation into a relentless drive to prove himself, a fire that would fuel his ascent to greatness. In 1784, Napoleon secured a place at the prestigious École Militaire in Paris. Here he thrived, absorbing military theory and history, his mind a sponge for the lessons of great commanders. The revolutionary spirit of France ignited his imagination, inspiring him to envision a new order. It was in this crucible of ideas that he began to forge his identity, a young man destined to reshape the continent with his ambition. As the revolution unfolded, Napoleon found himself at the crossroads of opportunity and chaos. The ideals of liberty and equality resonated deeply within him, yet he also recognized the fragility of these principles. He quickly adapted, aligning himself with the revolutionary forces, his military acumen earning him rapid promotions. It was a time of transformation, where the boy once rejected was now becoming a man of destiny, poised to seize power. The young general's first taste of command came during the Siege of Toulon in 1793, where he demonstrated his tactical brilliance. His innovative use of artillery turned the tide, showcasing his ability to harness the chaos of war. This victory not only solidified his reputation, but also marked the beginning of a meteoric rise. Napoleon's genius, once a source of mockery, now commanded respect and fear, a harbinger of his future conquests. Despite his rapid ascent, the specter of rejection lingered. The political landscape of revolutionary France was fraught with betrayal and instability. Napoleon navigated this treacherous terrain with cunning, often relying on his intellect to outmaneuver rivals. Each victory was a step away from the boy who once felt the sting of exclusion, yet the very ambition that propelled him forward also sowed the seeds of future conflict and division. As he emerged from the shadows of his youth, Napoleon's ambition became a double-edged sword. The boy shaped by revolution had transformed into a man capable of both inspiring loyalty and inciting fear. His education, marked by rejection and resilience, prepared him not only to build an empire, but also to confront the inevitable consequences of his relentless pursuit of greatness. The legacy of his youth would haunt him as much as it would empower him. In the tumultuous landscape of late 18th century Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte began his ascent, propelled by a keen intellect and an unyielding ambition. His early military campaigns showcased not just his tactical prowess, but also an innovative approach to warfare. He understood that the battlefield was a chessboard, where each piece had its purpose, and every move could tilt the balance of power in his favor. The introduction of artillery as a decisive weapon transformed the nature of combat. Napoleon harnessed this power with unprecedented effectiveness, employing the cannon not merely as a tool of destruction, but as a means of psychological warfare. His strategic placements and rapid maneuvers turned the tide in battles, instilling fear in his enemies and solidifying his reputation as a master strategist who could reshape the art of war. At the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805, Napoleon's genius shone brightly. He feigned weakness, luring the Allied forces into a false sense of security. As they advanced, he unleashed a devastating artillery barrage, catching them off guard. This tactical deception not only secured a monumental victory, but also solidified his status as a military innovator, demonstrating how intellect and strategy could conquer even the most formidable opponents. Napoleon's strategies extended beyond the battlefield. He revolutionized military organization and logistics. By establishing the corps system, he created a flexible and responsive army capable of rapid deployment. This innovation allowed him to outmaneuver larger forces, showcasing how a well-structured approach could maximize efficiency and effectiveness, further cementing his legacy as a strategist who understood the intricacies of both war and leadership. However, the very genius that propelled Napoleon to greatness also sowed the seeds of his downfall. His relentless ambition led him to overextend his empire as he sought to conquer vast territories. The invasion of Russia in 1812 became a turning point, revealing the limits of his strategic brilliance. Harsh winters and logistical failures turned his grand designs into a catastrophic retreat, illustrating how unchecked ambition can unravel even the most formidable empires. In the end, Napoleon's legacy as a master strategist is a double-edged sword. His innovations in warfare and military organization transformed Europe, leaving an indelible mark on history. Yet, his ambition, while a catalyst for his rise, ultimately led to his demise. The tale of Napoleon serves as a poignant reminder that genius, when unbridled, has the power to build empires, but it can just as easily lead to their destruction. As the dawn of the 19th century broke, Napoleon Bonaparte emerged not just as a military leader, but as a master of innovation. He harnessed the power of artillery, transforming it into a formidable force on the battlefield. The French cannons, with their precision and firepower, became the harbingers of his ambitions, allowing him to conquer vast territories and reshape the landscape of Europe. The Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 showcased the devastating effectiveness of Napoleon's artillery. With a strategic placement of cannons, he outmaneuvered and overwhelmed the combined forces of Austria and Russia. The thunderous roar of cannon fire echoed across the battlefield, marking a pivotal moment that would solidify his reputation as a military genius and instill fear in the hearts of his adversaries. Yet, the very weapon that propelled Napoleon to greatness also sowed the seeds of his downfall. As his empire expanded, so did the reliance on artillery. The sheer scale of his campaign stretched supply lines thin, and the once reliable cannons began to falter under the weight of endless warfare. The same innovation that had brought him victory now became a burden, revealing the fragility of his empire. In the bitter winter of 1812, as Napoleon marched into Russia, the limitations of his artillery became painfully evident. The harsh conditions rendered his cannons less effective, and the vast expanse of the Russian landscape turned into a graveyard for his ambitions. The once mighty eagles of France found themselves outmatched by the elements, showcasing how genius, when stretched too far, can lead to catastrophic failure. The legacy of Napoleon's artillery innovations would resonate long after his fall. Military strategists around the world studied his tactics, adapting and evolving them for their own purposes. The cannons that had once forged an empire became symbols of both brilliance and hubris, reminding future leaders of the delicate balance between ambition and overreach in the pursuit of power. As Europe rebuilt in the aftermath of his reign, the echoes of cannon fire faded, but the lessons learned remained. Napoleon's conquests illustrated the duality of genius. It can create empires that reshape nations, yet it also possesses the power to destroy them from within. His story serves as a timeless reminder that ambition, when unchecked, can lead to both monumental achievements and profound tragedies. As Napoleon's Grande Armée marched into the vast expanse of Russia, they were met not only by an unforgiving winter, but also by the fierce resolve of a nation unwilling to yield. The initial victories, marked by brilliant tactics and overwhelming force, soon gave way to the harsh reality of supply lines stretched thin and the brutal cold that claimed more lives than the enemy ever could. In the depths of the Russian winter, the emperor's ambition turned to desperation. The famed retreat from Moscow became a deadly dance with fate. Soldiers, once proud and disciplined, now struggled against frostbite and starvation, their numbers dwindling as the relentless snow fell, burying the dreams of conquest beneath its icy grip. The very elements had become an adversary more formidable than any army. The scorched earth policy employed by the Russians left the French forces without shelter or sustenance. Villages were abandoned, fields were set ablaze, and the land itself became a weapon against the invaders. Napoleon's strategic brilliance faltered as his troops faced not only the enemy, but also the wrath of a land that refused to be tamed, turning his grand ambitions into a bitter struggle for survival. As the remnants of his once mighty army staggered back across the frozen landscape, the cost of hubris became painfully clear. The campaign that was meant to solidify Napoleon's legacy instead marked the beginning of his downfall. The echoes of cannon fire were replaced by the haunting silence of defeat, a testament to the limits of genius when it disregards the harsh realities of nature and human endurance. The retreat from Russia would forever alter the course of history. Napoleon's empire, once a beacon of ambition and innovation, now lay in ruins, a cautionary tale of overreach. The bitter lessons learned in the snow and fire of Russia would resonate throughout Europe, reminding future leaders that even the greatest of ambitions can be undone by the unforgiving forces of nature and the limits of human resilience. In the aftermath, the legacy of the Russian campaign lingered like a specter over Europe. Napoleon's name became synonymous with both brilliance and folly. The paradox of his genius, capable of inspiring monumental achievements, yet blind to the perils of overconfidence, served as a stark reminder that the path to greatness is often fraught with peril, where ambition unchecked can lead to both the rise and the fall of empires. As dawn broke over the fields of Waterloo, the air was thick with anticipation. Napoleon, once the architect of an empire, now faced a coalition of forces determined to end his reign. The battlefield, a canvas of ambition and desperation, was set for a confrontation that would echo through history. Here, the genius of military strategy would clash with the harsh reality of fate, as the stakes had never been higher. Among the many elements at play, the artillery stood as both a symbol of power and a harbinger of destruction. The French cannons, meticulously positioned, were a testament to Napoleon's innovative tactics. With each thunderous blast, they unleashed a barrage that could turn the tide of battle. Yet on this fateful day, even the might of these weapons could not shield him from the consequences of overreach and hubris. As the battle raged, the relentless advance of the British and Prussian forces began to unravel the fabric of Napoleon's strategy. The famed Imperial Guard, once an unstoppable force, found itself caught in a deadly crossfire. The very genius that had built an empire now seemed to falter, as the weight of ambition bore down on the battlefield, revealing the thin line between brilliance and folly. In a moment that would define history, the cries of the wounded mingled with the roar of cannon fire. The tide turned as the coalition forces executed a masterstroke, exploiting the vulnerabilities in Napoleon's formation. The emperor's dreams of glory began to crumble, and with them, the empire he had forged through sheer will and intellect. The battlefield became a graveyard of ambition, where legends were both born and buried. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the remnants of the French army retreated, leaving behind a legacy marred by defeat. Waterloo was not just a battle. It was the culmination of a life driven by ambition, where genius had crafted an empire, only to see it dismantled in a single day. The echoes of cannon fire faded, but the lessons of overreaching ambition would resonate through the ages, shaping the future of Europe. In the aftermath, Napoleon's fall from grace became a cautionary tale of how brilliance can both elevate and destroy. Exiled to a distant island, he reflected on the duality of his legacy, a conqueror who had reshaped nations, yet ultimately succumbed to the very ambition that fueled his rise. Waterloo marked the end of an era, a poignant reminder that even the greatest of minds can be undone by their own aspirations. In the twilight of his life, Napoleon Bonaparte found himself confined to the remote island of St. Helena, a far cry from the grandeur of his imperial reign. Here the once mighty emperor lived under the watchful eye of his captors, a man whose brilliance had reshaped Europe now reduced to a figure of solitude. The gilded cage of his exile was a stark reminder of the duality of his ambition, both a creator of empires and a harbinger of his own downfall. As the days turned into years, Napoleon's mind remained sharp, a testament to his indomitable spirit. He spent countless hours reflecting on his past victories and failures, dictating his memoirs, which would later immortalize his legacy. In these writings, he dissected the art of war and governance, revealing insights that would influence future generations. Yet the isolation weighed heavily on him, a poignant reminder that genius, when unchecked, can lead to both monumental achievements and profound loneliness. Napoleon's exile was not merely a physical confinement, it was a psychological battle against despair. He often gazed at the horizon, longing for the freedom he once commanded. His dreams were haunted by the specters of his past, battles fought, crowns won, and the empire he had built now crumbling into history. Each sunset on the island became a metaphor for his fading power, a lion trapped in a cage of his own making, stripped of the roar that once commanded nations. Despite the confines of his exile, Napoleon remained a figure of fascination. Visitors to St. Helena sought his counsel, drawn by the magnetic pull of his intellect and charisma. He engaged in spirited discussions about politics, strategy, and philosophy, illuminating the minds of those who dared to approach him. In these moments, the lion's spirit flickered to life, reminding all that even in captivity, his genius could not be extinguished, nor his influence entirely contained. As his health declined, Napoleon faced the inevitable with a mixture of defiance and acceptance. He often reflected on the paradox of his life, how ambition had propelled him to the heights of power, only to lead him to this desolate isle. In his final days, he sought solace in the memories of his past glories, a poignant reminder that the very qualities that built his empire also sowed the seeds of its destruction. The lion, though caged, remained regal until the end. Napoleon Bonaparte passed away on May 5, 1821, leaving behind a legacy that would echo through history. His life story became a cautionary tale of ambition's dual nature, illustrating how brilliance can both construct and dismantle. As the world mourned the fallen emperor, his ideas and strategies continued to shape military and political thought. In death, he transcended the gilded cage of his exile, becoming a symbol of the complex interplay between genius, power, and the ultimate cost of ambition. Napoleon's ambition reshaped the very fabric of Europe, as he introduced the Napoleonic Code. This legal framework not only standardized laws across the territories he conquered, but also dismantled feudal privileges, promoting merit over birthright. It was a radical departure from the past, establishing principles of equality and civil rights that would echo through the ages, influencing legal systems far beyond his reign. Borders, once defined by dynastic claims and ancient treaties, were redrawn under Napoleon's vision. His campaigns forged a new map of Europe, where nations emerged from the ashes of empires. The concept of nationalism blossomed, igniting a sense of identity among peoples previously bound by the chains of imperial rule. Yet, this newfound nationalism would also sow the seeds of future conflicts. Warfare, too, was transformed by Napoleon's genius. He revolutionized military strategy, emphasizing speed, mobility, and the use of artillery. The Grande Armée became a formidable force, employing tactics that would be studied for generations. His battles, marked by audacity and innovation, demonstrated how the art of war could be a tool for both conquest and liberation, shaping the destinies of nations. Yet the very brilliance that built empires also sowed their destruction. As Napoleon expanded his reach, the weight of his ambitions strained the alliances he forged. The invasion of Russia in 1812 became a catastrophic miscalculation, leading to the decimation of his forces. This pivotal moment illustrated the perilous edge of genius, where the quest for greatness can spiral into ruin. In the aftermath of his fall, the legacy of Napoleon remained indelible. The Congress of Vienna sought to restore order, yet the ideals he championed, liberty, equality, and fraternity, continued to resonate. His influence inspired revolutions across Europe, as people yearned for the freedoms he had once promised. The echoes of his ambition lingered, shaping the course of history long after his exile. Napoleon's life serves as a testament to the duality of genius. It reveals how the same vision that can elevate a nation can also lead to its downfall. His legacy is a complex tapestry of triumph and tragedy, a reminder that ambition, when unchecked, can both forge and fracture the world. In the annals of history, he remains a figure of profound contradiction, forever altering the landscape of power and governance.